Hello, and welcome to the Political Stoicast, where Stoic philosophy meets political reality. I'm your host, Chibuzi Notum, and I'll be taking you on this journey as we navigate the political world before us through the lens of a Stoic. In today's current political affairs, we see a rise for the need to modernize and adapt to the changing world. Many factors in different nations rely on this need for innovation to happen. Otherwise, they face the consequence of falling behind into an underdeveloped nation. This prolonged issue forces citizens of these nations to make a decision, should they have the option. Stay and fight to build their nation up, or flee to better opportunities offered in developed or developing countries. With this dilemma at hand, it has lended its fair share of consequences that may be good or bad depending on the circumstance. Causing many divides in our nation, this episode is dedicated to applying Stoic philosophy to give a well-rounded response of how to view the issue of mass immigration and find resolve in the current affairs that confront us today. In chapter 16 of Enchiridion, written by Stoic philosopher Epictetus, he states, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things. There is no good or bad without us. There is only perception. There is the event itself and the story we tell ourselves about what it means." In relation to our current immigration crisis our nation faces, he tells us that it's not the crisis at the border and influx of migrants our country has taken in that upsets us, but rather the judgment we place on it that stirs our emotions up. The two schools of thought pertaining to the border crisis in America come from both the Democratic and Republican parties that divide the issue into two frames. Stemming from the liberal school of thought, it is their belief that we should accept immigrants who cross our borders with open arms, leading them away from sometimes dire situations happening in their countries. To be a place of safe harbor, as was originally intended, stemming from the founding of our nation, when citizens of the Kingdom of Great Britain fled from the oppression of the British monarchy in search for a sense of freedom that was not offered to them before. With this migration came the birth of our nation and the idea of freedom of speech. It is held within the core liberal thought that the same ideas that left the shores of Great Britain and found their way to America and birthed this nation, that the transfer of ideas and innovation can still work today to build upon the talent we keep and transform into ideas that change the world. In Book 5 of Meditations, Marcus Aurelius states, "Surely you're not angry with the man because of his foul stench or stinking breath, are you? What good will that do you? That's the way his mouth is. That's the way his armpits are. So, they're bound to give off foul odors. But, as a human being, he's been equipped with the faculty of reason and has the ability, if he applies his mind, to realize what's making him so offensive. Fine, but it follows that you have the faculty of reason too. Use rationality to activate rationality. Explain things to him. Bring the matter up with him." This quote reflects the liberal ideals of integration of culture and society and the path a Stoic should take in addressing their fellow man. They should be taught the right way to behave and conduct themselves, seeing how many immigrants contribute to our workforce in many areas and industries that are forgotten by our citizens. We as human beings share equal reason and therefore should be given the same equal opportunity to prove ourselves as productive individuals. It is important to note that a large percentage of our workforce is composed of people who came here through illegal means. It is reported by Pew Research that in 2022, 8.3 million U.S. workers were unauthorized immigrants, making them a significant part of our workforce. With this in mind, how to install a just means of action that resolves this issue and honors their contributions as well. Applying conservative ideals to the matter, Aurelius also states in Book 5 of Meditations, anything that does the state no harm, does no harm to its citizens either. Whether you think you've been harmed, apply this criterion. If it leaves the state unharmed, it does no harm to me either. On the other hand, in any case of actual harm to the state, one shouldn't get angry with the person who's responsible for it, but show him what he's overlooking. In this case, one has to look at the negative downsides that have come as a result of mass immigration in this country, where we've seen an influx of crime happening to the civilian population as a byproduct of these actions. According to the executive order signed by President Donald Trump on January 22nd of 2025, it reports that over 8 million border crossings have occurred at the Mexican border, lending cause for concern to the national security this imposes on our nation. Reporting a rise of known dangerous gang members and gang-related activity trickling into our country, causing harm and violence onto our citizens. One highlighted case that has been reported in the media was the death of 22-year-old nursing student Laken Riley. Riley was murdered by a 26-year-old Venezuelan gang member by the name of Jose Ibarra, who entered the nation illegally on September 8th of 2022. From the lens of Aurelius, we fail to overlook the risk factors to our citizens that does them harm, as the issue of immigration lies in the hands of our government, as harm to its citizens does harm to the state. This is where we can join as a collective of citizens to demand agreeable action be taken. From the advice of Epictetus, if each political side were to break down the actions and consequences that immigration causes on our country, we would see that there is no good or bad without us. There is only perception. We as a collective decide the tolerance to the issue we are willing to take and gain control of our nation's fate through our actions using just means. To satisfy this thought, I leave you with the final quote from Marcus Aurelius in Book 5 of Meditations that brings unification and a sense of individual independence to the conversation. He states, "Judge yourself entitled to say or do anything that's in accord with nature, and don't let yourself be talked out of it by any criticism or argument that may follow as a consequence. If it was the right thing to do or say, don't put yourself down. Other people have their own command centers and their own impulses, and you shouldn't let your attention be caught by them. But carry straight on, following your own nature and universal nature. Two things that share a single path. The path ahead lies in how we decide to act and the views in which we hold. Do we open our hearts and allow free passage? Or build walls to ensure security?" Thank you.